This is the linebackers we currently have on the roster right now. I've ranked it in order from the biggest cap hit to the lowest. So Nick Bolton, $3.5 million. He's a free agent next year. Drew Tranquil, $3 million. We just re-signed him. Great deal, Drew Tranquil. Leo Chenal, $1.3 million cap hit. Jack Cochran, who we just brought back as far as the exclusive rights free agent. Cole Christensen. And then Cam Jones, who actually looked really good in that Chargers game at the end of the year when he got some playing time. He looked really good in that game. So JD, obviously, we got a mix of veteran presence with Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal finally coming into his own, Nick Bolton, who's on a contract year. What are your thoughts on this linebacker room?
I love it. I like this linebacker room. I think we have one of the young, talented linebacker rooms underrated in the NFL. I really do. And then with Willie gone, these guys still make that true, without a doubt. So I'll start with Nick Bolton. I watched Nick in college, and when you're talking about a tackling machine, that's who Nick Bolton is. He was SEC leading tackler for a reason, but he was all over the field. I just never could understand how some people didn't like Nick, okay, as being a linebacker. They always talked about like he was just okay, or we could get rid of him. So Nick Bolton is that guy. He is that dude. When he plays linebacker, he reminds me of a running back playing linebacker. That's what he reminds me of. When you watch how he scrapes, to the sideline and getting, across and hitting the holes and filling them, he knows the point where they're going to be at. It's almost like he figures it out from the running back perspective where to meet them at, and knows like where they're going to cut back, he's going to be there too. So it's almost like he's in their head, and that's why you see so much of him turning his shoulders and running, as opposed to keeping his shoulder square. And he's shoulder square from A to C. That's where he is. When he goes C to C, he knows how to shoulder square. Get to the outside, he turns his shoulders and go. Okay. And he does a great job of it. And I'm telling you, when he comes, he is bringing pain with him. He is bringing absolute pain. But I just never could understand, man. To me, Nick Bolton is one of the top 5 linebackers in the league. Underrated. Because he's just a smaller frame guy. He's 6 foot, 235 pounds, whatever, right? So he's not monstrous in size, okay? He's not like your typical Mike linebacker who's going to be 6'3", 245, 250, right? Everybody's thinking, Ray Lewis and all. People think of guys like that, right? Nick Bolton is compactful. He's a compactful guy, okay? That's why when he smacks people in the mouth, you can see that they are visibly shaken, okay? Because he brings nothing but bad intentions with him, all right? He does. So Nick Bolton, oh my goodness, he is, like I said, one of the better linebackers in the league, especially at Mike linebacker. To me, Bolton has the Zach Thomas effect. He's 5'11". People say he's too. That's exactly what it is. Too small, can't do it. And Alder Brown, I was thinking too, like all the linebackers are small, right? London Fletcher, right? Zach Thomas, okay? When you start talking about the guys like that, and it's like, man, these guys all over the field. They done had a chip on his shoulder. It's almost like if you tell a dude that he's 5'11" or 6 foot and he's too small, you just created a monster. So maybe you need to tell every linebacker, oh, man, you're too small. You can't do it. You might just develop somebody who's going to be a superstar, right? So I think that's a lot of who Nick Bolton is. What do you think about Nick?
I love Nick Bolton. When he came back, it was the Bills game, his first game back. It was a huge difference to our defense right out the gate. Also, I thought him having the club on his arm this year was also just a badass effect to him.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, what you say, a running back out in defense, it's actually it's a really good one. Having number 32 also helps with that as well, that effect. But yeah, I mean, the one thing about him that I love is his rapport with Spags and how much Spags trusts him. And that's been evident since the day we drafted him. But they say, they was listening to Arrowhead Pride about a couple of weeks ago, and they're saying that as far as the next guy, so the next year we have Bolton coming up, free agent, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. Apparently, Bolton's first in the line to be getting a contract extension. You could see of all those guys, he could be the first one to see get a contract extension, possibly in this offseason, which And quite frankly, I know we talked about running backs not being respected anymore. Middle linebackers also become that as well, a position that's not highly regarded anymore. And I think with what he's doing on our team, I think it'd be great for us to kind of lock him in for the long haul, just to have that bookend or that guy in the middle of your defense, the quarterback on your defense, have him be that guy for the long haul. Be amazing.
And when you talk about linebackers, and the Chiefs has always had linebackers, through the past, like DJ, who was a solid guy that you just want to keep here. Nick is one of those guys who's always going to be a solid guy, who's going to be always top in the league in tackling, right? Because he's savvy. He's got very high football IQ, all right? And you're talking about he is kind of the heartbeat of the defense. He really is. He's the voice. He tells his guys where to go, and everybody respects Nick, every single guy. And so when you see that, you see the effect that he has on him, on the defense. It's apparent. It's apparent. So, yeah, Nick Bolton, folks. Now I'm gonna go over here to Drew Tranquil. Tranquil, right? I'm so happy for Tranquil getting the deal that he got. Okay, because he deserved it. He played his tail off this past year, and to me, every challenge that he was presented, he knocked it out the park. When he had to come in and play for Nick Bolton, and in the middle, it's Mike. He did a hell of a job. And I always say, with Tranquil and Bolton, both those guys, little undersized. Tranquil has like more of a thinner frame. Okay, that's why he had a little trouble kind of getting off the blocks and whatnot. He can just get engulfed, on the interior guys. Okay. That's why our defensive line has to be stellar when because you let our linebackers run, they're going to make plays. They're going to be the best in the business. You get those guys off of them. And Leo Chanel was sniffing out a whole lot of plays this past year, a whole lot. Much better at the pass defense than the run defense for Leo Chanel or Tranquil. I'm sorry, Drew Tranquil. And that's what we needed. We needed to see a guy like that. He's very disciplined in what he does, plays the ball, plays his eyes well, plays the quarterback's eyes well. He knows how to, he understands space and then being in his zone. He figures all that out. And so very high football IQ. And if anybody was going to replace Willie, Drew Tranquil was the perfect guy to do it. He was the perfect guy to do it. But he's home. Drew Tranquil loves everything about Chiefs Kingdom, and I think Chiefs Kingdom love everything about Drew Tranquil as well. And so, to me, man, he's going to be one of those guys, a next star. Just if we're able to keep that, he's going to be here with us for a little while. Bolton together, and then we talk about Chanel as well. This very next year, our linebacker core, man, is as solid as you can get in the NFL, really. But I love Drew Tranquil, everything he gave this year. But yeah, it was absolute joy to watch. Absolute joy to watch.
Yeah, Tranquil was amazing. I think the whole fact, the story of him coming from his Chargers and in-division team, coming and seeing what it's like to actually be on the winning side. I think he made many comments about that, and then seeing him at the parade. Someone talked about Willie Gay being awesome at the parade this year. I think Drew Tranquil was probably the MVP of the parade if we had to give rankings to how the guys were responding to it. I mean, grabbing the microphone from the local news reporter and just being so happy to be in Kansas City, and was a couple days later he signs a 3-year deal to be in Kansas City for a good while. And we may mention about Leo Chanel. We saw him step up this year. He was really good this year. What did you notice the most of Chanel from year 1 to year 2? What did you see the biggest growth in? And obviously, for what you think the team obviously was okay to move on from Willie Gay to say, okay, Leo's got it. What did you see his biggest step up this year?
So he got out of just thinking, and he just went. He just played. First year, you could tell he was a little hesitant on his thought process, but he was still making plays because he's an athletic guy. Leo Chanel, who I call He-Man, that's who he reminds me of. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. That's who Leo Chanel is.
Prince Adam.
Yeah, Prince Adam. And so the thing is, man, because he does have athletic ability. He's a bigger size guy. You would think he's going to be a little bit more lumbering and bumbling. Man, he's smooth. He's got speed, and that sucker will hit you. He's strong. He is absolutely strong. To me, he is one of one of the top players on our defense. I mean, seriously. He's not somebody you have to worry about playing his position at all because he's always solid. That's why you don't necessarily hear his name unless he's making a play. Because any other than that, it's like, oh, well, where's Leo Chanel? Got outside Chanel on this. You don't ever hear that. You never hear it. So he can set the edge. He comes up and makes plays. He understands where he needs to be in the scheme. That scheme is built for somebody like Leo Chanel. But that was his big jump this past year for me, was just watching him just go play football, and just go and just react. That was it. So,
yeah, he's one of those guys. I mean, talk about. It seems like we do have this kind of like formula of what we're looking for, because he's another guy who he also looks like a skill player, like a running back and linebacker. Because his 40 time was ridiculous. I remember at Wisconsin, they were lining him up and just having him blitz from the edge position and all the way up the middle. So like they obviously saw something in him in Wisconsin, and now for us to kind of see him, and we saw him play his ass off in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was getting back there and getting some pressures on Purdy. So I'm really excited to see him like a full-on season of him actually getting those reps that were, maybe split between Willie, Bolton, and Drew Tranquil the last few years, or last year. So seeing him get full-on dose of Chanel this year, can't wait.
When I look at his ability, man, he could play all three linebacker positions, Sam, Will, and Mike. He could do it all. So when you have a guy that has that type of versatility, I mean, that's a hell of a guy to have on your team, really. Cochran. Okay, so I was actually impressed by him.
Me too.
I was actually impressed by Cochran. And I'm like, this dude right here could play. And you know how you just like, oh, okay. Like, your eyes perk up. Like, is that Cochran again? And so he was, I don't know what game was that. Was that Denver or somebody? I don't know what it was. But he was just making play after play. But I think, matter of fact, we might have been texting each other talking about it. And I was like, man, this dude is a hell of a player. He's a hell of a linebacker, right? Now, look, he may not wire you with speed, okay? He may not be the star like a Bolton. He may not be as savvy as Tranquil, or he might not be as big as Chanel. But I think he has a little bit of all three. You know what I'm saying? He's a linebacker that you sitting over there, you have to worry about throwing in. You don't have to look around and look down who we going to look in? Who we going to put in, right? You just, Cochran, go on in. No hesitation. And he looked like a guy who's just going to get the job done. He came in, he fit right in, he did a hell of a job. I don't know what game that was, but it
was a Packers game, I believe. It was a prime time game. I remember it was a Sunday night game. We're talking about it. Yeah, it looks like looking at that game, that was his biggest game as far as 7 tackles, 7 solo tackles that game. And obviously the last game of the season where everyone was, it was all the reserves and he got more playing time with that. But I remember you and I were like pleasantly surprised about it, because I remember we were both talking about possibly picking up Darius Harris, the linebacker we picked up the previous year, who actually stepped in and played well. And then he came in and he flashed right away. Yeah,
absolutely. So, yeah, he jumped on my radar quick, just with his play. And when you do that, to me, I'm just like, this dude is a solid guy. He's a solid player. He could go play anywhere in the NFL, really. And any team would love to have this guy. Would love to have him. Okay. Christensen. Now, not really as sure all about Christensen as much. You know what I'm saying? Special teams guy. He's one of those guys that the dudes I play with, if you're going to be a solid person playing linebacker, right? Special teams, linebacker starting. When you come in, you're a great reserve. That's who you're supposed to be. If you're going to be part of the 53-man roster, you better be that good. You better be making plays on special teams. And so I didn't really look at like the tackles on special teams, who was really making their tackles and whatnot. But I'm sure Christensen's name came up, a few times. For the Chiefs, if you got a solid guy like this, I think they was happy with him. But like I said, I don't know too much about him. The main 4 I know more about, like I said, Bolton, Tranquil, Chanel, and of course, really. But the special teams guys, I told you, I said, look, if you're on special teams, you ain't making no tackles, then what are you doing? Okay, what are you out here for? And so, look, I used to get on special teams all the time because if I didn't see effort and somebody getting down there, then I'd call it out quickly. But I think our interior guys are pretty solid. I think Christensen did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, Cam Jones, the biggest game he got his most playing time was that last game of the season as well. And I think for Cam Jones and Cochran, they both, when they did get their playing time, they really flashed. Cam Jones, I'm looking at his numbers. Because I remember during that game, I was so wowed by his performance. But that game, Cam Jones, 12 total tackles, 11 solo tackles in that Chargers game to end the season. So, pretty good.
That's a hell of a job. That's a hell of a job. Shoot. 11 solo?
11 solo.
Daggone, I didn't know you had that many.
And Cochran had 7 solo in that game.
Yeah.
So I mean, we got good. I mean, we got good depth. I mean,
good depth, man.
These aren't big names by any means of Cam Jones and Jack Cochran, but I mean, hey, in the playing time they get, and they're coming up with 7 tackles, 11 solo tackles. Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. So I think now what you start looking at is, well, do the Chiefs address getting somebody in the draft at linebacker? Okay, because linebackers are one of those guys that you'll probably you're gonna be starting, and guess what? You're gonna be on special teams. Sometimes you just got it. That's the life of a linebacker. We're gonna need you. Sorry, y'all group are the ones that's not gonna be able to come off the field. Y'all gonna be on special teams and on defense. This is what it is. So get ready. Okay, and the reason part of that is because you're athletic guys. Well, guess who's another one like that on offense? Tight ends. Tight ends are the same thing. You're gonna be on, you're gonna be doing special teams more so than not, carrying double duty. So unless you're obviously like Nick Bolton, you ain't the guy. Okay, Leo, we need for you to take this rep. Yeah, we need for you. Yeah, okay. So just get ready for it. So
yeah. If you look at the draft, I mean, I haven't done a deep dive in the middle linebacker position, but if you look at our history, Chanel was a second round pick or third round pick. It was a second day. It was day 2 pick.
Day 2, Bolton, I think it was round 3 pick.
Round 3, yeah. And if you look at Bolton and Chanel, it's almost like every other year we're drafting. Well, they were back-to-back years, but I mean, we do like to spend draft capital in the middle linebacker position. So I won't be surprised if we do go middle linebacker at some point. They like drafting linebacker talent. So
yeah,
I think was that 3 consecutive years because Willie Gay just came up for contract. Bolton would be coming up for contract next year, so that's back-to-back draft class, and then Chanel would be coming up after that. So yeah, right. So that's 3 straight years of
3 straight years. Yeah, linebackers coming up. Yeah.
So there you go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do take one.
Yeah. And of course, like you said, we got Tranquil for 3 years. If you're going to sit back with these guys for a couple of years, solid, and nobody comes up and you don't have to talk about anything, then that's good to have, right? But Bolton he's an easier choice. I think because he missed a little time this year, people was like, oh, Bolton was, and Chanel, Tranquil came in and played. Well, shoot, we still needed Bolton out there. You could tell the difference when Bolton was out there and when he wasn't out there. A big difference. So,
yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited about this linebacker group. I mean, I think every time we go over our different defensive groupings, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic about it. The only one where I'm like, it would be the other D tackle spot next to Chris Jones. That's the only one I'm kind of meh about. Is the guy next to Chris Jones, that's a luxury problem, right? To say the guy next to Chris Jones, but that's the only position of all of our defensive positions that I'm kind of scared about is that other spot. But
we have to draft as a defensive tackle.
Yep.
Okay. And I said in the first 3 rounds.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.